Good evening. It's April Davis PI, and it is March 2025. For those of you who've been faithfully watching my channel, thank you very much. To those new subscribers, welcome. For those of you who have been watching for a while, you'll probably recall that at about this time last year, I made a video regarding the 10th anniversary of missing Malaysia flight MH370. A few days ago, sadly, we just passed the 11th anniversary and still no plane in sight. My theories still remain the same. I stand by what I said in my last video. A little later in this video, I'll recap it for those who haven't seen it or for those who would just like to recall what was said last year. There have been a multitude of recent internet theories that have since come out. Everything from alien abduction to the plane is lying in a remote Cambodian jungle. I won't even address the alien abduction theory, but I can tell you that if there is a plane in the Cambodian jungle, which there could be, it's very remote, very rugged terrain, it won't be MH370. So for you internet sleuths, you treasure hunters that are out there looking, go for it. Go find somebody else's plane and report it missing, because it won't be MH370. Now, I'm not sure if you guys have heard, but they are going to resume the search for MH370 very soon. It's going to be conducted by the same company that conducted the last search, Ocean Infinity. They are a Texas-based company. They will be working on a no fine, no fee. The details of the how, when, and where have not yet been released, but it is expected to resume soon. So I would assume this year. I do pray for the best possible outcome. I hope they can find this plane. If they don't, I have a fear that it may never be found. If you didn't see the last video on this, please stay and watch this. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Once again, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching my videos. Well, I'll just get right to it. On March 8th, 2014, we had MH370 leave Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, en route to Beijing, China, never to be seen or heard from again. There are many theories, a lot of them crazy, none of which I believe. No, they weren't abducted by aliens. No, they didn't land in Kyrgyzstan. The plane is lying in the bottom of the Indian Ocean. That's one thing that I'm sure of. However, I wanted to discuss the Maldives and also something that happened in Australia the day that this plane disappeared. It's all connected. The Australian event and some events that happened in the Maldives. First of all, there is a university in Australia, Curtin University, and their researchers had some sonar devices in the water, underwater, off the coast of Perth. There's some smaller islands off the coast that belong to Australia, and these Curtin University researchers had these implantable underwater sonar devices that on the same day, coincidentally the same day that MH370 disappeared, these devices picked up like a large sound, like a whooshing, whoosh sound. Now, the day that this whooshing sound was picked up, the researchers did say that it could be consistent with that of a large aircraft striking the water. But it could also be many other things. An underwater earthquake, an underwater volcano, a meteorite falling star hitting the ocean at high speed, space junk falling from space. Could be anything. So after months and months of research, they discover that there were no other explanations for what it could have been that same day. So they conclude that it was probably MH370 crashing into the Indian Ocean. And when they did the mathematics, they found out that this sound was, about 2,500 or 3,000 miles away. I don't remember the exact figures, but it was to the north and to the north of Australia, kind of the northwest, I believe. And the approximate range as to where they think they detected this sound from, over thousands of miles of ocean, was in a town called Kudahuvadhoo in the Maldives. Now try to say that 3 times, everybody. Kudahuvadhoo. I'd like to hear you try. Now, it's just a coincidence, maybe, that the same day that this aircraft disappears, that this loud whooshing noise is picked up on these sonar devices in the vicinity of Kudahuvadhoo, Maldives, detected as far away as Perth, Australia. Pretty crazy stuff. Now, also, maybe a mere coincidence, on the same day, there were aircraft, an airplane, or maybe 2 airplanes, spotted very low, flying around the southern Maldives. Now, there is a big airport, an international airport in Maldives. It's in a city called Malé. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but I'll insert a little clip here to give you a lesson on how to speak Maldivian.
But how do you pronounce the capital of Maldives? In ancient times, the capital was called Mahal, and thereafter the name of the capital came. It's pronounced as Malé. The pronunciation is not Mal or Malay or Malay. The correct pronunciation of the capital of Maldives is Malé.
Okay, so we'll go with Mali. So there's an international airport in Mali, and it doesn't open until 7 a.m. But people south of Malé, people on the island of Kudahuvadhoo, there's that word again, report hearing and or seeing a large, low-flying commercial aircraft. Now, they're not used to that in that part of the world. Some of these people have, never left the island. They have not seen modern technology. And they were quite shocked. People were coming out of their homes, and there was a large aircraft that was white, where it was so low you could see the doors on the plane. And some of the people saw the blue and the red striping. Now, a little later that morning, at around 8, there was a 777 that was a private aircraft that flew in from Saudi Arabia. Does have a white base to it, but the coloring on the plane is for the rest of the part, it's totally different than the colors of MH370. But there was an aircraft that was flying around that area at around 8, getting ready to land in Mali International Airport. However, that was much later than when the people were awakened that were still asleep at around maybe 6:20, 6:30. I think some said as early as 6. There was something circling around the island. And it ended up flying off to the southeast, banked over the horizon, possibly crashed. We'll never know. Now, another mere coincidence happens around the same time frame, maybe 7 or 8 days later. I'll have to research that further. It's been so long, it's been 10 years now. But maybe 7, 8 days later, week and a half later, this object that appears to be either a bomb or a mine washes up at a resort in the Maldives Islands. And the police are called. The police come out, they won't touch it. And they have to call basically the only military that country has, the Maldives Self-Defense Force. I think it's called the Maldives Nation Defense Force. Well, this defense force, they come out in a little, G.I. Joe type army jeep, and they pick this thing up and they carry it away, never to be seen or heard of again. No further comments from the Maldives military or the government as to what that was. But luckily, there were some tourists, including an American tourist, out on that beach. Got some pictures, and it is believed to be a fire suppression bottle. I would call it a tank, but I think the proper name is fire suppression bottle. It's from a fire suppression system that's from Boeing, from a Boeing 777 or a Boeing 787. And at the time, even to this day, 10 years later, the only Boeing aircraft that's missing in the world is MH370, a Boeing 777. Now, how did a fire suppression bottle that appeared to be empty, by the way, just land on a Maldives beach? And why did the government cover up any attempts that they made to research the matter further and confirm with Boeing that they may have a piece of the plane there in the Maldives? That country just went silent. And when the investigation was being done by the government of Australia, the United States, and I believe Malaysia, whoever was involved in the original investigation, they said that many of the countries that were interviewed wouldn't say a thing. Nobody saw anything. Nobody ever heard anything. The only country that came forward, and kudos to them, was Thailand. Yeah, the plane flew over Thai airspace. When they asked Thailand what they did about it, they responded, nothing. But they're the only country in the world that admits to seeing that aircraft in their airspace. Not over their land, but in their airspace, after that plane took off from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Now, there's been a lot of speculation that the pilot was involved. And I don't think the man should be blamed until there's sufficient evidence. First, they need to find this aircraft. They absolutely must find this aircraft. And it appears that as soon as they were crossing out of Malaysian airspace into Vietnamese airspace, that's when something happened. And he did a hard turn to the left. And nobody knows exactly why. If he was going to crash the plane and kill everybody, he could have just done it right then and there. He wouldn't have had to make the turn to the left, which was actually headed back towards the island of Penang in Malaysia, where there's the Penang International Airport. And by the way, the Penang International Airport is the closest airport to where all of this happened, or the closest airport to where they could have landed from wherever they were last known, which was somewhere between Malaysian and Vietnamese airspace. The closest airport at that time was Penang Island in Malaysia. And the pilot was headed that way. But something happened. And there's been a theory, a long-held theory, that there was some secret cargo and that it was actually lithium-ion batteries and that they may have caught fire in the cargo bay. And the fire spread up into the electrical control system, which is underneath the cockpit, thus causing electrical failure. That's why they lost the transponder. But if there was a serious fire, the plane probably would have just crashed right then and there. But, you know, they do have very sophisticated fire suppression systems in these aircraft, and there's not a lot of oxygen in the cargo bay. So with lack of oxygen and the fire suppression system, the fire could have actually been put out, and then the toxic fumes could have overtaken the cockpit and the cabin. And, the pilot's oxygen wouldn't have lasted more than, 15, 20 minutes, and that's it. He never made it back. Now, obviously, the plane did go down in the Indian Ocean. That's where they're finding. They found at least 33 pieces, but only a few of those pieces are absolutely 100% verified to have come from MH370. But a lot of things have floated up to a lot of countries, from La Reunion Island to Eastern Africa. There's even possible sightings near Australia now. I mean, this stuff is everywhere. It's just floating around. And it's a big world out there, but the ocean is an incredible place. The ocean can do incredible things as far as carrying things. There's things from the tsunami in Japan that have floated up on the beaches of Oregon in the United States. It's an incredible cycle that the ocean goes through with the tides. It's possible that these pieces are floating to all these countries. I mean, there was a piece of what they think was the engine cowling that floated up in South Africa. But yet there are things that are in northeastern Africa that have been found that they believe belong to this plane. There are things everywhere. But, you just can't discount this whooshing sound that the Australian researchers picked up off the coast of Perth that happened the same day at the same time that this plane disappeared. And those sound came from the area of Kutahuvahu, Maldives. And at the same time in Maldives, you've got hundreds of ground witnesses who gave written statements to the police, who saw or heard a large low-flying aircraft. There's just so many reports of this low-flying aircraft that was just way too low and then banked to the southeast and may have gone down. And then you have the fire suppression bottle. Not to mention there was a couple there from I think somewhere in northern Europe, and they happened to arrive in the Maldives on the day that this happened, not knowing anything about it, and went to their resort and went out island walking that night to see the ocean before dinner, and they saw a bunch of debris floating up, and they thought, well, this is odd, because it was shoes, slippers, flip-flops, little juice packets, water bottles that may have come from an aircraft. And they reported it to the hotel, but the hotel didn't seem to be interested. And then before they went to dinner, they went out on that beach again, and everything had been mysteriously cleaned up. All of the debris had vanished. And it really bothered them for the whole week they were in the Maldives. Like, what was that? Where did this come from? And as they left Mali, a week later, they go to the airport, and that's all that everybody was talking about. And then they just felt sick the whole way home, like, oh my God, maybe we know information that could be helpful to this investigation. And then they figured, like everybody else in the world figured, like, well, sooner or later they're going to find that plane. A year later, when the plane had never been found, that couple came forward and made a report, like, we think we know something about this. And I'm not saying that the plane crashed near the Maldives. I'm just saying that you have to add all these pieces into the story about the whooshing sound that was picked up in Australia, that was now reported to be a sound event off the coast of the Maldives, and then the low-flying plane or planes that were seen in the Maldives that day, and then the fire suppression system possibly washing up on a Maldives beach, another week or so later. I mean, there's so much. I don't know. What do you think? I hate to point the finger at the pilot if the guy is innocent and he didn't do any of this. It just seems like if he was going to ditch the plane in the ocean, he went through a lot of weird maneuvers to do so. It's just not consistent with a suicide. I just don't believe that. But rest in peace to the passengers. Prayers for the families who continue to wait for answers. You know what to do. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Good night.
I know it's nothing new, but it's so good to see you. We do this every day, and I'm still so amazed by you.